All right, people. Let me see your hands up. Jumping on twitch.tv/Darude. Let me see your hands up. All right, and I'm jumping on. Cool. Hey guys, what is going on? My Twitchers. Cool. I've got a nice number of people on Facebook Live right now who I'm steering repeatedly to twitch.tv/Darude. And I'm seeing some peeps up on the Twitch chat already, so that looks good. How's everybody doing? Thank you, Michael. Moi Vera. So, another glorious week. Another glorious Monday. It's been great here in Finland. Actually not that bright and sunny, but still see some blue skies as well. No rain. And we are going to see what I have in store for today. Or it is a track called Out of Control that you guys chose, whoever the beautiful people who voted are. And so I do not have the full project file of Out of Control existing anymore because we were back then working at my buddy JS16's studio, and the setup was different, the different gear was different, and it was mostly hardware, and so there's some samples and some of the MIDI data that I have that I'm going to be showing parts of for you. And so I am going to stop the Facebook stream right now so I can concentrate on that direction. Please check out twitch.tv/Darude. That's where the live stream is today. Thanks everybody so much for joining on the Facebook side, and I'll see you on Twitch. All right, guys, I am here, and I am yours. What is a red rack synth below the earphones? That is a Nord Rack 2. It's a Nord Lead 2 synthesizer, but in a rack format, so it doesn't have a keyboard. I just control it from here. And yeah, this time it actually seems that I can control it from here. I had a problem earlier with it, but let's see how this is gonna work out. All right, I am going to go and connect some MIDI devices here. All right, I got that. And then uno momento. Okay. So we've got a couple of hardware pieces that were actually used with the original as well. And I got those beauties here. But I have to load them up first. That's the beauty of hardware. And turning them on is pretty important as well. All right, so I'm gonna go grab a chat. 6 a.m. in Seattle. Nick Wax, you are insane hopping out of bed at this hour for this. All right. Just gonna drop this down here so I can see who's doing what with me. And that is not the sound I'm looking for. Okay, so let me check your levels as well as mine. We're good. All right, so who do we have in the chat that I know? We have Lady Dorer, we have Nick Wax, Vicious Code is here, Morwick is here, Wild Ace. Wild Ace, I am probably going to label this at some point. And so I do not know why this is not working for me right now. So we have librarian. Push data to hardware. That's not cool. Let's see another patch. Wrong track. That is out of control that I'm working on right now. Have you guys heard a track called Out of Control? It goes something like this. right, so alrighty, so that track is called Out of Control and Back for More. So the original Out of Control was an instrumental. It was made with my buddy JS16, and it was the third single of Before the Storm album. And Out of Control is written by Jaakko mostly, and then we figured out all the bits and pieces in the studio together. It sounds a little different from Sandstorm and Feel the Beat, but quite many of the same things were used in it as well. Let me reload this if I could. I do not know why I don't have a connection now to that synth, but let's try one more time. Loading that sound. This is aggravating, to say the least. I wonder what is going on. I apologize for this. Oh, I don't have connection again. I've got these amazing plugins that are acting as a front end to the hardware synthesizer here in my DAW. But I seem to have some sort of an issue right now with oh, there we have it. Cool. So key elements of the track are similar stuff than we had in Sandstorm and Feel the Beat as well. And why I'm referring to them is because they were the first and second single, and this one was the follow-up for Feel the Beat then. This did really well, even if I say it myself. Sandstorm being number 3 on UK charts and doing well elsewhere as well. And then Feel the Beat number 5 and doing really well elsewhere as well. And this went to number 11 on UK charts, which is still really good chart success-wise, and sort of I don't know. Now I sound big-headed, but like having 3 tracks on the UK charts that high was really good for me, so that I wasn't just, even though I know what people say, but I wasn't a one-hit wonder per se. I had 3 of those tracks out within a year, and it also solidified a pretty good amount of gig requests and other interest on me, so I got to do a lot of touring and a lot of promo with it, and thus giving me a good beginning for my career from where I could just you know, build on. Nice little hop up. The vocalist for this vocal version is a singer called Tammy Cartwright, and Tammy Marie was her artist name as a singer back then. And she's an amazing person. She's a firecracker and funny as hell. And then she's so talented, and especially live. She was with me at the Top of the Pops TV show, which famously is not really live, but she did that live performance amazingly as well. But then I toured with her in the UK for a good bit for promo and gigs around UK, and she rocked it everywhere where we went. And if you want to actually see her in action a little closer to today than back then in 2001, she took part in the UK X Factor, and if you look for Marie or Tammy Cartwright and X Factor UK, you'll find her belting out. All right, I don't know where that sound comes from, but it's fine. Possibly we are an octave too high. No. Oh, I can't manage my... Let's try one more time there. And then this. Yes. Now we're in the right spot. So what was very typical back then for my sound was arpeggios, which came from the Nord lead, and also this patch, the string patch that famously I can't make work right now. Let's see, I'm lacking MIDI. Yeah. And those came from the said Nord lead, and then also this JP8080, and this is the riff. And this is a nice A minor progression, A minor, F, A minor 7th, and like an open A. And then it ducks down to G in the end of that round. And the other round does a little variation there. So, somebody said it's like hearing Sandstorm all over. Well, kinda, yeah, but then not at all. The chords are totally different, and actually the rhythm here is more like the rhythm in Feel the Beat. Sandstorm riff starts on the 1. And this starts like after, like, what's that, 8th. But anyway, and then wow. Casio keyboard Synthfire. That's exactly what it is. So those are those main bits in a chord progression. So the my fingers are not long enough. Jenki, I know Dave played it and also sang on it. Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah. Sawtooth waves with detune. Well, that's the super saw of the JP8080, and that's basically what it is. It's stacked sawtooths, and then this is basically a very similar to the original patch from the synth, with filter tweaked differently and some resonance tweaked differently, and also I think we tweaked some of the detuning a little more on the detune side, but it's that's the sound that JP800 8000 or 8080 is famous for, the super saw. It has plenty of other stuff in it, but that's basically what makes it the trance machine. Do I record everything via analog? No, not at all. I've recently just gotten sort of back to using some of the hardware that I've had, and I got a new one, Sub 37 by Moog. And it was sort of a revelation getting that after such a long time of not really using hardware. And let me go there so you can see my screen. There's not much to see at the moment though, but still. I have a sound card that I have all of my hardware pieces connected to, and then just a MIDI interface triggering them, or MIDI USB in case of the Subsequent. And on their part that I use in my music projects, so to say, live, then I'll just record the audio in and see that it's in time and edit if needed and whatnot, and then that's basically it. There's not that much to it, except that you have your hands-on feels with the gadgets, and luckily these days you have the software front ends to them too, so you can use them as librarians and control the automation through that as well. Jay Greyhood, yeah, this is Logic Pro. And JMuck V88, no YouTube stream this time. There will be a YouTube replay later. So what I don't have is, most of the drum stuff that is in a track, but I can obviously show you some of that stuff. If I'll quickly go and find the extended mix, where was I putting that? There's we also decided to go a little bit different on let's see. Yeah, so this is the extended mix with some of the drums. So that's a 909 kick. There's a 909 snare creeping in. Very typical 909-ish clap. Now the chords are coming in from under the filter. While days, I select my drums, yeah, from sample packs in my libraries, combining all kinds of things, depends on what I want, basically. There's so many possibilities these days. So that is the gist of it. I'm trying to think if there's... I also remember with Feel the Beat and Sandstorm, both of them had very sort of distinct drum loop that gave energy and movement in a, like under the main kicks and claps and hi-hats. And we thought that we'd do something a little different here. So that's why this is more percussive. Basically there's, instead of like hi-hats and instead of claps in the hi-hat loop right here, we decided to go like, and then those doom doom things, we thought of that it would be a nice sort of change of pace or style to do that kind of thing, and then those carry on the whole. Of course there's hi-hats coming in and it's way loud. And so then
take you with me, desire to escape, boy, your love's all I need. You're making me, making me, making me. You're taking me, taking me, taking me. Out of control.
Sometimes I feel that those were just such simpler times, and I don't mean that in a bad way, on the contrary, sort of. So here's that lead replicated with Logic's retro synth.
I need
It's in the wrong spot, of course, I'm sorry. Yeah. And like you can hear when you play the original track and this on top of each other, it's such a simple sawtooth wave that just putting it on in about the same time and place, and obviously because the original was recorded with not exact clock like today's DAWs have, like sample accuracy, but it still is like flanging and phasing because it's such a similar sound just coming out of a different thing. And I have Tammy's vocal here, bounced off the original, some of the original projects. Added a little delay. Dirty thoughts run through my mind. Oh, I can't stop myself this time. I wanna get close. Do you like how I move? Yeah, baby, you know I wanna make love to you. Out of control, you're making me, making me, making me. Out of control, keep taking me, taking me, taking me. I'm melt away when I take you with me. Desire to escape, boy, your love's all I need. Out of control, you're making me, making me, making me. Out of control, keep taking me, taking me, taking me. Paradise and crazy love. I can give you what you want. I was just trying to find a kick right quick so that we could listen to that under there. Have I made something different, very different from mine, this kind of signature style sound? Yes, I have. Depends on sort of how you look at it. But I think a lot of people, if they think of my sound or the signature, so to say, might not even sort of think of anything else than the Sandstorm and maybe Feel the Beat, because those have been the biggest well, hits, if you may. But I've made various electronic dance music things during the last 20 years, really being housey and trancey, some techie. And actually just recently I was working on this drum and bass kind of thing that I could actually really quickly show that. That is something like here. So yeah, that's just a quick, quite different, kind of 170 BPM drum and bassy thing, quite on a commercial tip maybe, but still. I know this is not much of a crazy breakdown like I did of Calm Before the Storm, and that I'm going to be doing on most of my tracks, because I do have, from the second album on, I have all the project files in Logic, and so that's all the separate sounds, and pretty much all of them sound exactly like they sounded when they were being made. Yeah, I went a little out of control. Let's see if we have some. If somebody's interested in this, check this out, the beginning effect thing. That's something J16 and I made when we were working on this track, and it's basically a rim shot reversed and then repeated and then put through a phaser, a specific phaser unit. And curiously, if you listen through Vengeance sample packs, you can actually find it there. It's interesting because that was handmade by us and I guess replicated exactly with the same gear and stuff. Didgeridoo. Yay. What else can I tell about this? So we, the initial track was indeed instrumental, but then when we were with my record company then, Neo Records in UK, planning on the release of the third single, they were thinking that after two instrumentals, well, Feel the Beat is not instrumental entirely, but either way, we would benefit out of having an actual vocal on a track, and we agreed. And then we came across this writer who came up with these lyrics. I believe, if I remember correctly, her name is Kathy Ogden. And then Tammy was at that time signed to or working with Neo Records, and so we tried her on the record, and it sounded amazing. So that's why, or that's how, this track came to be. If you listen to the original instrumental mix on the single or on my album, the initial version, it's actually very, very similar, but then of course we needed to make a little room for the vocal to fit in, both mixing wise and then in arrangement wise. But they were quite minor arrangement changes and other to have it sit on top, and it turned out really good. And I've been very happy and humbled that still when I play, often I get requests for this one as well as, say, Sandstorm. Samuel B. Emmett, sound effects are something, the biggest thing where your songs suffer. Why is that? Do you just don't find them, or you don't have enough of them, or you have hard time figuring out what will sound good or does sound good? The vocoder vocal, yeah, that's a good question. It is, that's a sample. That's a sample that we tweaked a little bit, but yeah, it's almost directly out of sort of a sample pack thing. Well, Samuel, there's a lot of packs where you can get those samples from and not do anything yourself, or there's a lot of those packs where you can find good ones, but then you can recreate them yourself, or just figure out how they did what they did by trial and error in many cases. I'm not claiming that I could just tell exactly how something was done just by hearing it, but then, you know, you have your DAW and you have your effects and edit tools and whatnot, and in many cases that's, you know, how they were initially made by other people. There's no exact magic involved, so if you hear a sound, you can at least sort of get thereabouts, and then you can you know, and maybe it's good that if you hear a sound that you like and want to replicate, but you can't for some reason, but then you just make it your own, put something different on it. But if you start from a point where this sample sweep or whatever sounds great to you, but if you tweak yours long enough, it's going to sound good, and then maybe in a different way, and then that makes it yours. What does Darude mean? You mean my name? It doesn't really mean anything, but I mean, if you want to think of me being a very impolite person, just maybe that's it then. Hold on, is it there? Out of control. Yep. I think we're quite close having this sort of figured out. What I was planning on recreating this like note by note so that I can sort of have it and have a go and tweak it further from there, but I don't think I'll need to do that because I have the main parts done, and I am most likely going to be or one of these days apply some of my newer productions sort of on top of that. I actually have a couple of things in mind that are either in A minor, which would be directly this key, or close to that, and make this maybe like 132 BPM trancer, and not exactly the 137 that the original was. But it obviously, in my case, and doing these, it helps that I have some of the original gear here, where I can not only get actual sounds out that were like then, but it also helps with the vibe for me to work on stuff. But this sound is so versatile too, because just simply with the filter you can make it so different, and And here's the Roland JP8080 filter, where it was not the best ever because it has that snap and tick in the beginning. Because you want the attack when the filter is open, but when the filter is not open and you have the attack all the way down, it actually gives this sort of not so nice tick in the beginning of the note. No, I'll show you. The Logic doesn't have that limitation anymore, or hasn't had it in a long time. You just say here, you do two, I don't know, whatever, here. And then just draw curves however you want. Steeper, well, it's hard to see sometimes, but yeah, it can be quite, that curve can be tweaked right here, for instance. And then there's S curves as well. If that's what you are about. Okay. My bot is aggressive. Might have to tweak that. Wild Days, you're not out of line or anything, so don't worry about that. Yes. I was going to. Let's see. Yeah, I might actually, because this seems to me, I don't know if you guys feel like that or agree, but because I don't have a full project, this seems kind of quick to go through it like this. Maybe I'll just see if I have next to you in a better or better shape for this. Let's see, next to you. That one there. All right, so this is what's going on here. but yes, this is the one that we call the remix switch. It's the more, I don't know, commercial one maybe. Good evening.
I've been waiting for a boy like you. I've been dying to get next to you. I've been dancing all night through. I've been trying to get next to you.
Sandstorm pad from JP8080 again. And the Nord lead arpeggio, though much more buried. This is a recording of the real JP, but anyone using Logic, this is an ES1. I used a lot of ES1 and ES2. I still do sometimes. But especially the second album, this one, Logic was brand new to us then. And it was amazing to get sounds directly out of the computer. Dun, dun, dun. .909 snare, a little kick brewing. Sound familiar? All right, so this one was quite a lot more sort of complex, or had more layers than the stuff before. We had a good drum set, or good set of drums working. A lot of little stuff. Quite a lot of little stuff working, and when I was working on this album, my Rush album with JS, I was still quite inexperienced, but I basically learned to use Logic making the album. Bass. Violin. Okay, so I would like for somebody to ask a specific question, because those are probably, I know this thing like the back of my hand, so I might not think or be able to think something interesting about it. What I normally do is what you can see here up on the top of the screen. You have green stuff. Those are all my effects, though. So those are booms and like sweeps and swooshes and stuff. There's, if we just listen to that bus starting here. Then under it, all the blue stuff, that's drums, kick drum separated, and then the rest of the drums. Under that is, well, the light blue or turquoise drums. Those are actually snares and tom-toms. and with effects. Yep, and then all the brown stuff, that's my bass. So we've got an arpeggiator. That's a very sort of typical, what would I call this? Well, I mean, that comes from ES1, but so it doesn't have, well, it's trans arp bass, but that's very much like a quick rubber band bass. Then we have a lower one, and then there's the Nord lead arp on top of that. Yes, cool. So all the drums here, let's go one by one. Say, looking at, these are now, some of these are just already bounced from what I used to have here. This is a sort of a cleaned version of the original the original files. But yeah, we always, even back then, used to EQ stuff out. Like I know of these that, for instance, several already have the EQ printed on them too. Like if you listen to all the drums, there's that one loop that has like a kick in it, but it's very thin, very little low end in it. Like something like that as well. And so yeah, almost everything is treated first track by track, but then also like bus by bus or group by group. Though I have to admit that I do a lot more of that these days than I did back then. Oh, what else was? Yeah, and yes, this song was pre-Vengeance Samples days. Yeah, Nick, I do EQ a lot on my channels. I do two kinds of EQing. I often have two EQs on the tracks, like or almost directly from the get-go, and one of them is basically shaping the sound in a macro whatever way. So I have either like a low shelf or low cut, and then like high shelf, and I tweak the sound in a big way. You know, if it doesn't have to have low end at all, I take it out, or low shelf, not to be as drastic, and then I boost the sound or take the high end down for, you know, like big picture. And then I have another EQ dedicated for more surgical cuts, mostly looking for ringing, resonances and whatnot, and taking them down. So, and I know I don't necessarily need to do that because many EQs have multiple bands these days, but I find it you can bypass the big picture or the surgical separately then, and then it just sort of makes me think different things when I have one for the big picture and one is the corrective one. It's okay if you can't think of anything. That's fine. So I'm trying to see. Interestingly, in this particular project, this was made before I was using mix busing and mix or track channel grouping. I mean, I would be grouping them like, you know, in order like this anyways, but now with Logic having the mix buses or stacks, you say in Logic, now you can group them into these smaller groups. And that's why several of the sounds already has, for instance, their processing in them, because I've had to, over time, bring them from like Logic, whatever it was, 5 or 6 or something, to these newer versions. And then I've also worked on them along the way, or sampled some of the stuff along the way from them. And I've rendered something in and just left it, you know, like that. But these buses don't have processing because this track was mixed without these buses back then. So single channels were mixed and it sounds like it sounds good, minus mastering. And so, but if I wanted to like make a re-recording and remaster of this, I would probably go through all the channels and then also these buses and re-EQ and compression, whatever. Now again, because there's definitely some stuff that I probably will hear differently now than we heard back then. Vocal processing chain, let's see. There's probably nothing on this right now. Let's hear, because this is the, yeah, this is the straight up processed bounce. The vocal chain was though, it's actually,
I've been waiting.
Yeah.
For
So
like you. I've been
Jaakko, if I remember correctly, his main mic was then this big, I think it was a Manley. I might be completely wrong, but because I remember he got one, you know, a hefty, expensive couple of grand back then, and we recorded all of the stuff that was recorded for my stuff in his studio through that. And then he, I believe, recorded everything clean or with very little printed processing there. And then he was a fan, and I don't know if he still is, but he used a Waves Renaissance EQ and then the C4 compressor and just EQ. And then this one also has
I've been waiting.
there's phaser.
For a boy like you. I've been dying to get next to
If you listen to it
I've been
carefully, it's sort of, I know the vocal was obviously recorded mono and was made center, but with the delay and then the phaser, it makes it sound like it's panning a little bit. And I think the delay is definitely moving.
I've been trying to get next to you.
Do I still keep in touch with Jaakko? Yeah, we do check on each other every once in a while. He's working on a lot of music still, but he hasn't been releasing too much of his own stuff. But he's been producing a lot of other people, like a lot of Finnish like frontline acts. He's been involved in all kinds of JVG and Cine Sabotage, and I don't even know what, or all of them, a lot. And then, I mean, he's at one point when we did a call, it was a couple of years ago, he was like, yeah, this week has been pretty nice. He had, I think he had 2 tracks in the top 10, like K-pop tracks, so in Korea or somewhere Asia. I don't know if they were actually on the Korean charts, but he co-writes and produces still. But we haven't worked together on music since this Rush album. Well, Wild Ace, if you want to ask another question, feel free to do so. It's all good. Yeah, that's too bad. I don't. That would be actually would be good to have the vocals. Oh, and then we also Elena doesn't really need tuning, but there were some things that we. I don't know if there's a lot of this breathy vocal stuff. And then, oh, hold on a second. So, for instance, these long notes. Some of those were tuned in a certain way so that you can make them long and mix them. I also like with auto-tune, like these days everything is auto-tune. Like even if a vocalist is perfect, you have to auto-tune or Melodyne correct them or whatever tuning software you use, because otherwise if you stack and layer one vocalist vocals and they drift too far apart, it starts sounding so wrong because everybody's so used to having everything perfectly tuned. So, but what I learned with Jaakko was like this very sort of moderate / only purposeful tuning, and even to still today when I hear tracks that are either because they need so much auto tuning or style wise they have producers have chosen to auto tune them like really robotic, I sort of can't stand it because it I think it destroys the feeling of the in Rush album, Passing By, that sound, I don't think it's the same one in Next to You. Hold on, I don't remember, but the doo-doo-doo sound, no, that's actually that's a sample based sound. What's the workflow when starting a track? Wow, so many things. I used to do more so that I'll start with drums and bass line first. I wanted to and needed to get like a groove and feeling and energy going. So I would go through samples and loops and build some sort of a driving kick drum, hi-hats, claps, loops, some percussion that would work together really well, and then figure out some sort of a bass line. And back then especially it was a lot of sort of this arpeggiator based 16th note bass lines like this has as well. Today I don't always start from there, but I do need to get some sort of a feeling going or inspiration and energy, and sometimes it's just me going through sounds and throwing in some loops and whatnot, or sometimes I listen to other people's music just to get in sort of a good mood and good vibe. But I don't often have a fixed plan, or even if I have a fixed or a thought that, hey, I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. But then it often changes on the way, and I am quite easily letting go of that kind of stuff too. I'm not married to a specific goal usually in the beginning, because a lot of times the song or the creation process sort of takes me somewhere. So I hear things and I try to put them out on the track. Like most of the time, creating a drum loop and a bass line first would be just monotonous. The bass line wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't go up and down. It would just be finding the rhythm. And then in that rhythm, I would find little places for percussion or something, accent something, so that it would get some sort of a groove going on. And then in that, I would start hearing melodic bits. And then first, you know, it would be just straight 8 notes bass line, for instance. But then at some point, I would hear something harmonic in the rhythms and in whatever percussion sounds and whatever is there. And I would start messing around and then, you know, coming up with a melody, and obviously, you know, not going all the way with the, say, A bass line. And then I would just think of, based on the melody or the feeling that would bring me, whether it's, you know, 1 bar A, 1 bar wherever it would go, like your G's or F's or anywhere, or is it half a bar? Is it almost all the way A and then like last bar goes something else or whatever? But then that would be basically coming straight out of like a gut feeling or how I want to do it. But then a lot of times today I work with songwriters and singer-songwriters and who, or other producers who already have like melodic content in, whether it's a full-on melodic vocal already figured out, whether there's lyrics or not, but sort of the melodies are there, our chord progression is there, and then I would start producing around that. And it, you know, both are equally good for me these days. But in the beginning, I don't think I was thinking or being creative as a songwriter, but I was more like a tinker and a programmer, and things just came out of that. And then today, I can a little bit more think about it with logic, and then to a very, you know, to some extent also via music theory or the chord progressions and friendly chords that I know, and then obviously, you know, thinking it via the singer's performance or the melodic content. And it's quite a different way of making music, but I've sort of still use both, and it also depends, like if I want to make a darker techno track, well, I don't make techno, but more monotonous housey track or techie track or whatever, then I would obviously concentrate on the programming and the drums and stuff like that first, and then maybe add a little bit of melodic interest things there, but not make it a full-on quick melodic chord progression anyways. Most of the time, wild days, I use drum and percussion loops, but most of the time I also don't use them exactly as is, but I cut them into pieces and sort of mix and match. And then also with cutting them to pieces, I most of the time also actually I'm looking for more like getting the sound that I like about that drum loop or percussion loop, and then I rearrange it like rhythmically as well. Like that could be that the loop is a straight 16th kind of thing, but after I've picked what I like about it or those sounds, it actually might be like shuffly house loop or something like that. So when I use drum loops, it's the overall sound that I usually I guess think or I'm drawn to, and then after that it's the like the rhythm of it and building what I want with it. But most of the time too, I just have several loops that I like, and I pick and choose different pieces of each loop so I can create something unique that still sort of like has the sound that I heard initially, but then it's not just a loop out of a sample pack directly. Well, I mean, I've done that as well. Percussions, so I'm not a real, I'm not a percussionist, so I'm not that great with that. So it's most of the time I'm like going after, if I played something live with on my keys or some of the pads, I'm like, I know the accent or where the weight of the loop should be, and I play stuff to be there, and then I program a lot around it. How can I learn basics for starting producing? You open a book, open a website, you go to YouTube and look for whatever you want to look for, and just sit and learn and try. There's really nothing more to it. And then, you know, hang out with people who are like-minded and swap ideas, swap sounds, projects, collab, and swap feedback. That's how, and be honest. Yo, all right, so what else? I can show the synths here still. Falling Stars. I think this is a Korg Triton pad, and we used here. Korg Triton was big on the second album. Both Jaakko and I had it, and and this one, by the way, it's interesting. This sound is actually the sampled JP8080 Sandstorm pad sound, but we're using it quite differently here. Check this out. So you can use that in a different way as well. Nice little middle drop. So this is when somebody was asking about how to create your own sounds. I mean, this is a very simple thing, but this is an ES1 in Logic, and it has a pitch bend automation. And I can show that there. I think you guys can, well, barely see it. It's in the lower corner here. Well, barely.
night through, I've been trying
When they're good, they're good.
to get next to you.
Can you tell that somebody learned how to program a bot?
To get next to you.
All right, Nick is going to go to work. Thanks again, man, for coming. Much appreciated. Hey, fellow humans. I'm very thankful for everybody who shows up and follows my streams. These are definitely an outlet for me this time when I'm not able to come and hang out with you guys and play for you at a club somewhere or at an event. And this is definitely a neat way to connect, and then at the same time show a little bit of this side as well. And I've streamed before. I actually have over 4 years old Twitch account, and I've been a partner since, you know, the get-go really. But being on a road and trying to make music, being a father of two and a husband, it's quite busy like that. So I haven't really had consistently time to do streaming other than now during the lockdown, which I guess is some sort of a silver lining. I get to do this with you guys. And I'm going to be keep doing these things every Monday. Is the studio stream, and I'm hopefully getting better at this presentation stuff. Next week I'll do another one. How about a show of hands, or actually names of Darude records that you would like to see and hear broken down like this? I've so far done Calm Before the Storm, and now Out of Control, and actually as an extra this Next to You. So far there were Tell Me, Coming Home, and then Label This were also choices, and you voted for Out of Control and Calm Before the Storm. Okay, so Look Away, Sandstorm. Well, Sandstorm is such an obvious one that's probably not going to happen right now. At some point I will definitely do that as well. But Sandstorm is the number one ask, and it's a fair ask, but then I will probably do that another time. Okay, let's do, I'm going to write down your track suggestions. So, okay, you know what, let's do Look Away, My Game. Hi, David. Okay, so Look Away is new, My Game is middle. Is there, cool. Well, Before the Storm is the album, so I'm not gonna break down the whole album, and it's also a little different. Feel the Beat, I'm gonna do that at some point as well for sure. Ranta. You know what I could do? That, yeah, that could be a thing. Let's do this. I'll add these three. Let's do Look Away, My Game, and Ranta. And I'm going to play this track, and I'm going to go to Twitter and add this poll there right away, and then you guys can hop on there later if you want to. To cast your vote. That link I dropped is a link to the poll. And so, hey guys, with these, I'm gonna leave that in the background now. Again, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ville, among friends like you guys, or Darude, and I'm very thankful having this connection with you guys. Now we are under this lockdown. Everybody try to stay sane and try to stay safe. Remember to wash your hands, remember to keep the distance, whatever you need to do to stay healthy. And I don't know, I'll see you next Wednesday. I'm going to do a chat stream with reading your WhatsApp comments and calling Mr. Andy Moore. He's going to be joining me live on stream, and we're going to chat about all kinds of stuff, and you can ask him and me questions. And then Friday, there will be a DJ set stream starting with the Sandstorm Balcony Jam that is now a thing in Finland for over a month. For solidarity, people go nuts on their balconies and blast Sandstorm with various costumes and whatnot. And after that, I'll play a DJ set. Anything you want to tell me, The WhatsApp number you will find somewhere, though I'm only going to be commenting on those messages on Wednesdays. And then you can reach me on Twitch, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that's about it.